Next one, and this goes back then to the homophobic attitudes of some. Um,
Mm.
Kelly Holmes, who decided to this weekend come out as a lesbian, saying that after 34 years, that she says, "I'm finally free to come out as gay." Now, this was a surprise to me that she actually came out because everyone knew she was gay. No one even thought about it, but she was did this huge interview. Cars obviously being part of Pride Month, said that it was a brush with COVID which made her realize that she wanted to show the world her real self. That she bottled things up, she was self harming, she left her suicidal, she had breakdowns, she was afraid. Well, I mean, there's all these mad things she was talking about that she didn't say, but the journalists kept putting in to the whole conversation. And part of it was when she won the Olympic double, the 800, 1500 in the 2004 Olympics, was afraid of being outed. But there were far worse things that she should be afraid of. But coming out as gay was what she was most afraid of. That it's a bit strange, though. The timing with these stuff.
I think, well, there's a few things that I think factor into this. I think we have to remember that she was obviously in the army at a time when being gay was actually a reason you would be thrown out of the army, and perhaps that bred into the mentality of not feeling comfortable coming out in general. Nothing less to do with sports and more to do with that background. And then we move on to her discussion in the interview, and like there's a bit about like not always wanting to introduce significant others as a friend or a PA. And that I think
Yeah,
it's a very it must be an incredibly difficult thing to do, to have to go along to something and be like, to be the other half in those circumstances and not feel comfortable and not feel that your partner is secure enough to say that you're their partner. It's a very, I think it's a tough on both parties, and there must be a level of serious insecurity to have to feel like that. And I also think in terms of people feeling okay to come out, I often think when people in the highest profiles come out, there is a level of either they've reached that period in their life where they just go, actually, do you know what? I don't care. Or there's no longer a tie on feeling they're not comfortable enough to say it. Or unfortunately, as I think we saw with a celebrity actress in the last week, she was basically being told by a newspaper, an Australian media outfit, they were going to out her. So she beat them to it. And I just worry about the fact that we as society, when we're talking about players getting homophobic abuse, we're still also dealing with the fact that people feel uncomfortable in coming out, despite the fact that she's obviously known who she was and felt comfortable about that in her private life for upwards of 30 years. It's again just it's a very sad position to be in.
yeah. I mean, she's again, and I say this that everybody involved in sports, everyone who had I met her on many occasions. We knew who she was. No one ever put a buzz around. Okay, being from a military background or from coming from work or being a soldier, yes, that was definitely an issue. Um, and it's always baffling because, of course, in women's sports, it has always been far easier to, say
Completely.
who you are. Yeah, and I mean, there is abuse. There is abuse in that they do take hassle. There are things said. I do know that, and also that there is some difficulty sometimes with, um, you know, sometimes girls don't want to come out simply because they want to, just kind of keep themselves. But it always comes into it. One small thing on this, Isolt, is that there were huge questions always raised with Kelly Holmes and doping. Um, and this week or this past week, it was announced that there would be, UCAD were going to start to look, closely at people who were involved. Do you think this maybe might have headed it off a little bit? It kind of just sort of went, oh well, there's something better that she's forget what she did in the past. She was a hero
uh,
or heroine all along.
well, I think there's always you always see the stories that come out. Timing is never as coincidental. Like it's always with when you have a PR machine behind you, when you're as high profile as Kelly is. I'm sure there were a lot of factors in determining when she gave this interview, whether it was pressure in a personal capacity to come out, or whether it was timing in terms of, as you said, if UCAD are deciding to look at things, even though anytime UCAD look at things, I feel they do so through a very small microscope, and they only look at things that they're not worried are going to affect the biggest profile athletes. So it's a very whistle stop even tour of the bigger name athletes, because some people are too big to fall. And I know when we look at other sports, we look at the likes of Lance Armstrong, we say, oh yeah, the biggest name in cycling. But I just think sometimes British sport in particular has a great way of protecting its own. Let's not forget the jiffy bag. Let's never forget that. They had an entire parliamentary investigation and still got nowhere. So I think, yes, the timing could definitely be, you could look at it, and isn't it great that it also does tie in with Pride Month? So then you go, like, are you being cynical to look at the timing and go, oh, UCAD? Or are you
Yes.
being incredibly cynical in the sense that you are the person going, well, we could tie it in here nicely and say it's because of Pride? So,
But again, I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt because again, on a personal level, she's actually very nice, very personal. I dealt with her foundation, very,
yeah.
she's done an awful lot of good, and I had great time for her in that sense. But I don't believe how she developed so quickly, so late in her career. It wasn't natural, and a lot of other athletes don't believe, especially doing the 800, 1500 in 2004.